Hey everyone, Jason here, and I'm back with another Nanocoaster video. I know it's been a while, but today we have Lightning Rod from Dollywood. Lightning Rod is a Rocky Mountain construction, ground up, launched, used to be wood coaster, now it has the iBox track, so it's kind of a steel coaster. I rode it back when it was a wood coaster, and it immediately launched to the #1 spot in my rankings. And at the time I knew I needed a Nanocoaster for this ride. But unfortunately at the time they didn't make one. So as you can see in front of me, I actually made my own. I'll talk a little bit more about this one at the end of the video. But I actually want to compare this one a little bit with the official model. So let's jump right in and get started. Within the box, you'll see that you have a base plate, the one-page instruction sheet, the track that needs to be cut out, and a tip sheet that tells you that you should typically use something like nail clippers to cut the track pieces out. I did used to use nail clippers if you look at some of my earlier videos. However, I've moved on to these little pair of wire cutters here. They make things just a little bit easier. They're pretty cheap on Amazon. If you want to get these same ones I use, there's a link down below in the description to purchase them, or really any wire cutters should work. Now the first step to putting the Nanocoaster together is to actually remove this brown paper from the base. This is a step that's frequently forgotten, and if you watch any of my other videos, you know this is the first thing I always do, is to peel off the brown paper. It's easier if you find a little sharp corner and just kind of stick your fingernail in there to get it. On the front, there's several pieces that have to be picked up, just because it has the whole track layout cut out into that side of the base. So yeah, just put your fingernails under here and just kind of peel the pieces away. Same thing on the back. And there we have the fully completed base plate. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I like to add a logo to the base plate. The track does come with a little sign here that you can see that has the logo, but I also like to have a larger one on the base plate. And I kind of have to measure that depending on the base plate size. So I had to find a large enough gap. You'll also notice the top of the base plate has the track layout engraved in it. At the bottom, you have these holes where the track pieces stick through. However, you know the top because it has the full track layout. Now I've pre-cut out the Lightning Rod logo here on my Cricut cutter. If you want to do something like this, or if you need the logo for anything, I have a link to the SVG down below in the description. Now to apply this, I'm just going to peel off the logo. And then we can position this on the base plate where we want it, press down, and peel away the transfer tape. And there we have the logo ready to go on the base plate. Now the next step is going to be to cut out the track pieces and the sign here on the metal sheet. Now as I mentioned, I have a pair of wire cutters. Once again, the link to these is down below. You can also use nail clippers or anything sharp. You just want to make sure that you get as close to the track as possible. You'll see these little connectors here. And you just want to get your cutters in there and kind of go around each track piece. Try not to bend it too much. The sharper the cutters, the easier this is going to be. I can just kind of go around really quickly and remove this. And so I'm going to quickly remove each of the pieces, and then we'll move on to actually assembling the Nanocoaster. So there we have the 4 track pieces, the sign, and the station building cut out, and it's time to begin assembly. Now the first track piece we're going to install here is the launch lift hill into the first drop, as well as the piece coming out of the station. One of the cool things that these Nanocoasters do with the terrain coasters is they show the terrain here with the black piece, with the coaster above it. Now if we look at the instructions here, step 1 shows that this piece is mostly going to be straight, except for the part coming out of the station. So we're actually going to begin by putting the straight portion in. One of the nice things with these coasters is it's really hard to put the track in the wrong places. But this is going to go right here. There is a long slot right after the drop that's going to be for the next piece, but we're going to put this in straight here. And then right here, we can just kind of look at the way it is engraved on the base plate and use that to kind of bend the piece to go into the station building and drop that slot in, and then do the other turn coming out of the brake run into the station and put that slot in as well. Once we have the track piece all placed there, we'll come to the bottom and we'll bend over these little tabs to hold the track in place. Now when you're bending over the tabs, you'll want to make sure that you don't cover up any other slots that pieces may be coming through. I don't know if that's going to be a problem with this Nanocoaster in particular. However, that is occasionally an issue that you may run into. Now one thing I do notice is that on previous Nanocoaster models, The tabs were scored a little bit, so they actually bent over fairly easily. This coaster is not like that. The tabs aren't scored, so they do take a little bit of extra effort to bend in place. But there is our first track piece fully installed. The second piece is going to be the portion after that first drop into the wave turn and then into part of the other layout. So to install this piece, we're actually going to start with this wide tab here at the bottom of the first drop. You'll notice the other end just has a short one. If we look at the base plate, you'll see the long slot there, and so we'll drop that into place. Now this one we need to turn a little bit quicker. So before we can drop that all the way into place, we can kind of get it there as an angle. But we need to start bending the track to get this narrow slot into place for part of the wave turn. The wave turn actually has two narrow slots there that are going to kind of hold it in place. And this piece does look like the tabs are scored. So I'm not sure why they weren't on the first piece. I'm going to kind of pre-bend this one a little bit here. And we'll try to get this in place again. We'll just continue bending around the track layout. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work still to piece these in place. But we're just kind of getting the rough layout into the piece. And then once we get these pieces in place, we can bend the tabs over where we do have it right. And that will help us hold it in place for some of the other portions as well. And then once again, we bend over all the tabs on the bottom. Now interestingly, the wave turn ends up being one of the more difficult pieces to bend just right. As you'll see, it kind of goes back in there. That was actually the same on the homemade Nanocoaster, which I'll show you a little bit more of at the end. That was one of the more difficult pieces to get right. And on the paper one, it actually doesn't look near as right because paper doesn't hold as well as metal does. We'll show you that a little bit more in a minute. Moving on to step 3, we're going to use the piece that comes out of that last piece and then goes into the quad down right before the final turnaround. So continue right where we left off. You'll notice here at this end we have kind of two slots where this is going to hop over the track. This is going to hop over the track segment right after the overbank, as well as over the first drop here. So we'll just kind of start there with that first tab, and then just kind of bend lightly. Once again, follow the track layout. Let the track layout on the base plate be your guide. Oftentimes they tell you to try to pre-bend the pieces completely before you put them in. I don't like to do that. I kind of like to just kind of mold it as I put it together. Occasionally with a sharp turn you do have to do that, but I find that typically it's a little bit easier if you just mold this as you go along through the layout. And then we're going to bend over the tabs on the bottom once again and get that held into place. So you can see we're getting really close there. You can see the world famous quad down with the lift hill and the drop there in the background. Now the final piece is going to be the final turnaround into the brake run. This piece actually begins low and then goes up really sharp on a sharp turn and then once again wraps around to the brake run. Now this is one of the pieces you may have to start bending a little bit before you put into place. So we'll just kind of bend it a little bit here to get it curved around a little bit between these first two tabs. I'm not going to get it all the way into place here, but just a little bit so that it's closer so that we can kind of put it here on the base plate. So we'll bend that, and then we'll start here next to the place where the brake run is and just kind of go over the lift hill, and then we'll just finish bending this piece here into place. This is going to be the easiest place probably to put into place. Drop that right in, bend over the tabs once again, and there we have the completed layout for the Lightning Rod Nanocoaster. Now the final two pieces that we need to put in place are first off the sign. So for that there's a little slot right here in the front of the plate. We'll drop the sign in there, bend over the tab on the bottom, and kind of bend the plate backwards a little bit. So that gives us our logo on that side. And then the last piece is the station, which every Nanocoaster is exactly the same. You have this little house that you kind of just bend over into place. Looks just like that. And we'll drop that over where the station is here. And so there is the completed lightning rod nano coaster kit, except I've added the logo. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know the last step I like to do is to add a felt bottom to the nano coaster. When you look at the bottom here, you'll see all these tabs here. When you rub this on a surface, it kind of scratches, and so I like to kind of cover that up. This felt is available from Amazon. I have a link to it down below, and it's pretty easy to add. To do that, we'll just start by positioning the nano coaster here on the paper backing. One of the nice things here is this has a built-in adhesive. So we can just come on here and kind of trace around the nano coaster. And I try to position this in a corner or along an edge so that we don't have to cut out the entire layout. And then we can also use the scraps for other nano coasters as well. But I'm just gonna kind of draw the layout here in the felt and then take my scissors and cut around the inside of the felt. You do want it to be slightly smaller than the actual coaster, and that's just so that the felt doesn't hang over the edge. If it does, you can trim it up a little bit, but I found it's easier if you just get this cut just inside the edge instead. So I'm gonna cut this out really quick. And there I have my piece of felt cut out. I'm gonna quickly check it to make sure it matches up, which it looks like it does. And now we can simply peel away part of the paper backing to reveal the adhesive. I like to do just a part of it at first. So we'll just peel part of that off here and then set the nano coaster here in place to make sure, once again, it lines up just perfectly. Once we have it partially attached, we can come on here and remove the remainder of that paper. And then we'll use the edge of the table to help us apply that. So we'll just kind of go like this and just kind of move the nano coaster. Make sure that the felt stays lined up. But once again, the table can be used to help you apply that. And now we have a felt bottom added to the nano coaster, once again, that covers up those tabs. I can slide it around on the table. So that's my completed lightning rod from Dollywood Nanocoaster. These retail at the park for $34.99, so this is only available from Dollywood. I'd like to thank one of my followers that actually was able to pick this up for me. This is one that I've wanted for a really long time. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I had originally built one of my own, and I kind of wanted to see how these looked side by side. This was a really difficult project. So I have a Cricut, and so you can see mine is made out of cheaper materials. It has a foam base with a vinyl top, but the track is actually made out of paper. It does have a real nano coaster station. That's because the Still Vengeance nano coaster came with 2 stations for some reason. So I put the second station on here. But basically I had to use the Google satellite view to get the track layout and cut that into a piece of vinyl. And then I measured that graphic on my computer, and then using the 3D view on Google Maps, I traced the entire layout of the coaster. I just rotated around it slowly and created a profile of the entire track length. And then I made it match the full length of the cutout of the layout here. So like I said, if you look at this, it's actually pretty close as far as size and layouts go. The base plate's shaped a little bit differently. One of the things I mentioned with the metal, the wave turn did actually hold. With my paper model, you can see it didn't. I kept trying to bend this and mold it into place. But this was a really difficult project to do a couple years ago, and it really helps you appreciate what goes into the design of each of these nano coasters. When you're paying that $34.99, it's not just for the materials. It's also for the time that it takes to design each of these. I probably put just 5 or 6 hours into designing the graphics here and then cutting it out and assembling it. So that all adds up there. But in the end, I'm really happy with the official model. I'm glad to have the official one now. I'll still keep my personal one, not on my Nanocoaster shelf here behind me, but I'll definitely be keeping that one around. I'm not gonna toss it out with all the work that I put into it. But I'm glad that my #1 coaster now has an official Nanocoaster model. Once again, this is available directly from Dollywood for $34.99. I reached out to the park to see if they'd sell them online or by phone. Doesn't appear that that's the case, so I think only at the park, maybe on eBay, or find someone that's gonna be stopping by, and hopefully you can get one. But thanks again for watching. If you like this video, if you wanna see more videos like this, hit the like button down below, subscribe, and once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.